At 22, Jennifer Cramer-Miller was thrilled with her new job, a charming boyfriend, and a Seattle apartment. After she received a devastating autoimmune diagnosis, she soaked a hospital pillow with her tears, and she grappled with words that she had heard, such as progressive and incurable. It gripped her. Unwillingly, she crossed over from thriving to kidney failure. Her chances of survival hinged upon the expertise of doctors, the generosity of strangers, and the benevolence of loved ones. But what kind of life was this going to be for Jennifer?
Have you ever felt like giving up, quitting, throwing in the towel? Welcome to Never Ever Give Up Hope featuring Carol Graham. She's an author, health coach, and motivational speaker. Backed into a corner multiple times in her life, Carol shares with you stories on how she overcame some of the toughest obstacles a person can go through in life, but refused to give up hope. Rather than admit defeat, an opportunity was presented, and it involves each and every one of you. Carol will feature spectacular guests who will share their messages of hope, encouragement, and their inspiration to prove why life's adversities only make you stronger. And now, welcoming the host of the show, here's Carol Graham.
Jennifer Cramer-Miller is an author and speaker focusing on stories of hope. Jennifer's new memoir, Incurable Optimist. Oh my goodness, I love that. Incurable Optimist, Living with Illness and Chronic Hope, has received an International Impact Book Award, a Book of Excellence Award, and a starred review from Publishers Weekly. She serves as the board chair for the Minnesota National Kidney Foundation, an NFK peer mentor, and a Donate Life ambassador. As a patient advocate, she helps others manage uncertainty and to move forward with hope and find some joy. We are going to have a great time today. I just get excited even just reading that part. So welcome, Jennifer.
Hello, Carol. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
And we're excited to hear your story, so go with it. Start your story. Start from the beginning and share your story.
Yes, I am happy to. So, as you mentioned, I was 22 and living in Seattle when, I was kind of ready to launch my life. I had a really great PR position and I was living with my best friend, and I really felt like just I was on the brink of all good things happening. Help, healthy and happy, normal young woman. And then I woke up one day and I just felt puffy. My eyes felt puffy and I felt sort of off, like, maybe I had a flu or a virus. So I went to see the doctor. But what I found was so different than what I had expected. It was kind
Mm,
of outside my medical comfort zone when he did a urine test and told me that my kidneys were damaged. And I needed to have a biopsy to determine the cause and extent of this damage. But this was so out of the blue. I mean, there's no kidney disease in my family. I was just, really kind of carrying on with my young and normal life. So that was a really frightening word to hear, biopsy. I didn't know what that meant. I thought it meant cancer. And I came home to my mom and dad in Minneapolis to get the biopsy here, which is where I am now. And I found out very quickly that I had a progressive and incurable autoimmune kidney disease.
hmm.
So that was not a good thing. That was really, really hard. And what happened was I got a, huge dose of prednisone and a lot of medications that were trying to kind of correct it. But within 6 months, I had kidney failure. And That's pretty serious.
No
I mean,
kidding.
when you are in kidney failure, you have two options to stay alive. One, you can go on dialysis, which, if your listeners are not familiar, it's basically an artificial kidney machine. So it keeps you alive, but it's a very hard way to live, especially as a then 23-year-old. But the second option, which is kind of the gold standard for kidney failure, is kidney transplant. So I was on a list to get a kidney transplant. And at this point, I was just really kind of biding my time. Like, I'm going to get this transplant. I don't know how long it's going to take. I'm just going to like really stick it out. And then I'll go back to Seattle and kind of reboot my life. Like, I'll just go back to where I left off. So I did wait. It was about 2 years, and I got this first kidney transplant. And it was so wonderful to think, okay, this is it. This is the train ride back to my future. I'm going to get the kidney, and then everything's going to be okay. But within 3 days after I got that first kidney, my disease recurred in the transplanted kidney. And I knew that this situation that I was dealing with was not, there was no quick fix where I was going to go back to Seattle and pick up where I left off. I was going to have to manage uncertainty for the rest of my life. And what my doctor really told me was, you really have to think about transplants as a vacation from dialysis,
Oh, okay.
because you're always going to have deal with one or the other. And he said, I'm going to manage this transplant for you. I don't know how long it's going to last. We never
Hmm.
know with anybody, but we're going to do the best we can. And so I moved forward with that thinking, is it going to be 60 days, or is it going to be, 6 months or
Right,
six
right.
years? I had no idea. But what was really kind of a guiding force for me at that moment was I owed it to a family. There was a donor family behind this gift that I received, who, in their time of tragedy, their loved one paid their life forward, and I was the recipient. And that's a very
Yeah.
confusing
Wow.
intersection of life and death, especially
Hmm.
at this point, I was 25.
Hmm.
And so I just thought, okay, I'm going to move forward and make my life the most meaningful that I can to honor the gift that I've been given.
Wow.
So, yeah, so that kidney did last for 5 years and 3 months.
Hmm.
In that time, I
Can I
was able,
stop you for a second there and just, excuse me for interrupting, but
of
why
course,
does it only last that long? Like, is that normal?
because in my case, I had this autoimmune kidney disease that recurred. So it wasn't gone.
Okay.
So this autoimmune factor was still kind of eroding my new kidney. And medication can help slow that down,
Hmm.
but it couldn't stop it altogether. But an average, we should talk about an average kidney transplant. If you don't have my particular autoimmune
Hmm.
disease, um, some of them last, longer than that. Most people do have a misconception, however, that a kidney transplant can last forever.
Hmm.
There's usually many people do need to have more than one. I write for the National Kidney Foundation newsletter. And so I interview quite a few people. And I did interview a woman who's had her kidney for 44 years, which is amazing. So
No
there's some
way. Wow.
really great, great success stories out there. But there are, I would say, the average at this point, when I'm just looking at statistics, it's usually between 12 and 20 years. So,
Hmm.
and 12 and 20 years is a really great chunk of life, but there's
Hmm.
a lot of uncertainty when you have chronic kidney disease. And we have to sort of buckle in for what might be ahead and keep responding to it. But so in that period of time, I want to say this because I think this is so important. I picked up my life. I didn't actually go back to Seattle because was pretty mired in medical care in Minneapolis, but I did move on to start working full time. And I started dating, and my boyfriend became my husband, and I got married. And then I went back to graduate school and I got an MBA in business. And so I was in that 5 years and 3 months, I really made a lot of memories. I did maximize the time that I had with that kidney. And a year after I got married, I needed to go back on dialysis. And that was, a hard thing to be married for a year and have to go back on that life-saving procedure, but that only lasted 5 months. And then I got another kidney, another gift from another donor. And with that kidney, I was able to get pregnant and have a child. And so that gift of life not only gave me more time to make memories and a meaningful life, but it allowed me to create life. So I just think that, like, there are so many miracles in it. There's this quote I like that anyone who doesn't believe in miracles is not a realist. And I just have seen a lot of miracles as this kind of hardship has gone forward. I've really been able to grab onto hope. And so after that second transplant, I mean, just to give your readers a quick overview, I've had 4 kidney transplants in the last 30 plus years. And when I do speaking events, I'm an author, and you mentioned my memoir, and I go do speaking events. And when I say I've had 4 kidney transplants, usually my husband told me you have to kind of leave a pause there for the audible gasp that happens in the room. But so I'm quick to say that sounds like a lot, and it is. It's definitely a lot. But I've had a really marvelous and wonderful life, and so I think of the kidney transplants that I've had as miracles that have allowed me to have a really wonderful life. So after my daughter was born and was in kindergarten, my I needed another kidney, and my mom stepped up. And it was really interesting because anyone who reads my book will learn what a special relationship I have with my mom. And when I came home at the age of 22, under this really kind of situation of despair, my mom was always right there at the ready to go with me to any appointment. And she has this sort of magical way of like, like making anything, adding elements of humor to all these
Oh,
hardships. So we actually, like, this is one of my biggest lessons I've learned is nothing is always all good or all bad. Like, my mom and I have such funny stories about hilarious things that happened when I was actually like in the hospital or wherever. So I learned, nothing is one way or the other. There's a dichotomy in life, and we can experience joy and sorrow at the same time. So for that first kidney transplant, my mom volunteered to donate, but she wasn't a match.
oh,
And then in the time difference between the first and the third, changes had happened in criteria matching. And so she was a match.
oh,
And
really? Wow.
so that kind of came around full circle. And I was reluctant, I mean, I talk about the intersection of life and death with organ donation and a registered donor. And then when somebody tells you, someone who loves you and you love, tells you they want to give you their kidney, that's a really very emotional thing. And I just
Hmm.
thought my mom had done enough for me already. I didn't really want her to do this. And I had my daughter at the time, and she just said, "Let me ask you this. Would you do this for your daughter?" And, my
Hmm.
face just got that look, like that maternal kind of frown in the face. And she said, "That's all I have to tell you. Like, you're my daughter. Of course, I want to do this for you. Like, nothing else should be said." And, it was just a really special, special moment. I think she's such a giant of grace and goodness. And that's another thing that I think we go through when we go through these hard things, no matter what it is that people want to love us. And it's really hard to let people love us. But we know how we feel when we want to help people in our lives. We want to love them. So it's one of the things that I try to encourage people, as hard as it is, let people love you.
Oh, I love that. That was perfect. Well, I certainly enjoyed that story. I appreciate especially your attitude as you're sharing your story and just the tidbits of things that you said. The gratitude attitude, you're coping, that part of your attitude. I mean, it's just, you touched my heart, and I know you're touching the hearts of those who are listening because we never know who we're speaking to in a situation like this.
Yeah.
And it's very encouraging. So, what you said at one point, and I want you to expound on this, is everybody has something.
Yes.
And uncertainty does not discriminate. Wow, wow, wow. What a statement. You said
Yeah.
also, usually I'm the only person in the room who has had 4 kidney transplants, but not the only one who has suffered trauma. Again, turning your pain and suffering around to showing people that yes, you have been there, but you are also there to encourage them. So
Yes.
expound on those statements, please.
Yes, I would love to because when I was 22 and then I was, so determined I'm going to make my life a good one. I'm going to somehow get married and have children and have a good career. I just wanted what all my peers wanted. And I was kind of so determined to make that happen. But I didn't want to be defined by my health. And I was for a long time, I didn't want to talk about it because I thought, that's kind of on the back burner. I want to be known as a professional woman who's doing all these things. And I realized so that I was in my 20s, as I said, now I'm in my 50s. And in your 20s, when something really significant like that happens to you, oftentimes you feel like you're the only one because you look
Mm.
around at all your friends and nobody else is going through. Typically, I know that there
Mhm,
are
mhm.
people that are, but in my life, I just felt like, why me? Why am I the only one who is dealing with such really horrendous things? And of course, as we get older and wiser, it becomes so obvious that this is just life. Life dishes it out for everybody. Nobody has this charmed life. And even if you look at people's Instagrams and it looks like they're living really shiny lives, nobody escapes the fact that we have to deal with hardships in life. And so I suddenly realized, you know what? If I share my story, it can't define me anymore. I've already defined myself. I'm never going to be defined by the worst thing that I deal with because there's so many other
Mhm.
things in my life. And sharing this, kind of bearing my soul with this book, what I found is people open up to me and tell me so many things about their lives that I wouldn't know if I hadn't opened up. And I just have really started to realize how we all are in it together. And I think when we share our good things and our bad things as just humans, there's something that magical that happens in our connection with each other. And I think that's been very liberating. To just be an authentic person and talk to other people about their authentic stories too, and moving forward with hope. I'm not going around talking about, woe is me. I'm
Mhm,
talking
mhm.
about how we can control what we can and really move forward in a way that makes our lives meaningful and joyful. And joy is always available to us. And that's what I've also learned is that joy can be sort of paradoxical. I think that people feel like they have to go find it, like it's a buried
Hmm.
treasure. They're
Good point.
hunting for joy. Joy is so easily accessible if we know how to open up our gratitude, which is what I call my lucky list. Like I had a point where I had to realize, okay, I have kidney failure. I'm dealing with a lot of medical things, but there's so many things I still have. And I put together in my mind sort of my lucky list of, like I can always laugh. You can't take away my laughter. Like if I'm watching something funny or like watching Will Ferrell or laughing with my daughter, like that's so life sourcey for me, and you can't take that away from me. And you can't take away my appreciation of how adorable my dog is or how healing a blue sky can feel and how much I love the smell of vanilla. Like there are just things that surround us that we just have to really grasp those. as we muddle through because it makes our lives better.
Oh my goodness, you made me laugh. That is such a incredible analogy. Don't allow anyone to take away your laugh. To find that joy even when you're in the pit. There's a book right there.
Yes,
Another one.
yes. So many books to write. But yeah.
Exactly.
And then
We're
the other thing I think that is helpful for people who are struggling with things is to think about how much you're trying to control. Like there are things that I can control, and I do control those things. I'm very good with my exercise and my diet and being
Mhm,
social, and
mhm.
I can control things. There are things I can't control. And
Right.
for a long time I was trying to control things I can't control. And that, to me, that feeling is like going against the current of the river. It's like you're always trying to swim upstream. It's exhausting, but it doesn't get you anywhere. And when
Right.
I kind of took in this meditation that I'm like floating on an inner tube on the river, trying to go upstream and then just turning it around and going with the flow, that's surrender of just, I'm going to go with the direction and I'm going to navigate it the best I can, control what I can, but not try to fight the current, is, I think, a really good way to just sort of relax ourselves and know that we'll manage what we need to as we go forward, but stop trying to control what you can't.
There's a lesson in that is for sure, and especially it's difficult for certain personalities.
Yes, it is. And there's a lot of anxiety that
Hmm.
comes with a lot of the hardships that I'm sure the listeners have. And one thing that I also suggest people is don't borrow trouble. And to me, that's a way of managing anxiety, because sometimes anxiety can spiral with thoughts of what if this happens and what if this happens, and
Right.
kind of forward projection of what might happen. But those things might not happen. So it's sort of borrowing trouble to put your mind on all of that when that might not even be something that's going to be true. So I think that's an important thing, to try to kind of pay attention to our thoughts and ask yourself, is it even true? Do I know that's going to happen? If not, I'm going to kind of stay with the now and do what I can.
Very well stated. Thank you. We're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what a patient mentor is and your book and how you are helping those in our audience. We'll be right back.
Carol Graham would like to show you the path from misery to miraculous triumph in her fast-paced memoir, Battered Hope. She relates her determination to succeed as someone who experienced one horrendous nightmare after another: gang raped and left for dead, loss of a child, husband falsely imprisoned, and cancer. Nothing could break her tenacity or faith. No matter what you face, heartache, loss, suffering, or injustice, Carol will illustrate how she became a victor the same way you can. The secret is to never, ever give up hope. Order your copy at Amazon or batteredhope.blogspot.com.
Share, if you would please, is the story about your husband in this whole scenario.
Yes, it's a love story for sure. For my fourth kidney transplant, which was, I'm so happy to tell you, 13 and a half years ago. So my longest lasting transplant that I've had, it's being very well managed, was given to me indirectly from my husband. And what indirectly means is he was not a match for me, but he pursued a paired exchange program. So he, like a hero, gave his kidney to a stranger so I could in turn get a kidney from a stranger. And my stranger
Aw,
was an altruistic 25-year-old. So what I said about miracles really came swirling together. And, talk about for better or worse. I mean, to have your husband, like, I always say, he donated his kidney as if he was having an extra dentist appointment. He just really, it's like, so gung ho, and it was such a loving act, and it just was really the power of people helping people is amazing.
Yes,
And
yes.
I've been so steeped in that and so much gratitude.
Would you tell us now, please, what is a patient mentor?
Yes, well, I started doing some work for the National Kidney Foundation where I serve as a peer mentor. And what that means is other kidney patients and I have one on one conversations. And with all my experience, I help them navigate the things that they're going through, how, they adjust to their life and their emotional status on how it's going, and I just can provide as a mentor a lot of empathy and understanding, and it's been really rewarding, and I love doing that. And so I started to think, oh my gosh, I feel pretty good about the things that I can share, like we talked about turning pain into purpose, and it's just very rewarding to feel like I have a lot of experience where I can help somebody else who's on the front end. And I started to want to share with more people at a time than one on one. And that's where my book, Incurable Optimist, came in. Is I thought, what a great vehicle to tell my story. And back to the idea that we all have something. I have had amazing response to Incurable Optimist because it's, speaks to all the things that you and I are talking about right now, Carol, about how we navigate uncertainty and kind of hold on to hope and move forward with joy. So it's been so rewarding to be able to spread this message to so many more people through the book.
And who should buy the book?
The people who have really reached out to me is so many people. Anybody dealing with a chronic condition, I think the book really resonates with them. I One woman said to me, "I'm not an optimist, but I want to be, and your book really helped me change my
Wow.
perspective." So anybody who's looking for just how to move forward in life with a perspective when they feel kind of weighted down by anxiety or worries, I think that they get a lot out of the book. I've actually had people reach out who say that they've gone through a divorce and felt like kind of the resilience that they found in the book and the message of kind of moving forward was very helpful for them. So I think any of us who are humans who are just trying to navigate how to live a life and deal with kind of the beauty and the bummers that coexist, the book speaks to those things.
And like you said earlier, everybody has stuff.
Yep.
And
And
it's,
that's what makes us human,
mhm.
so well with all the people that you talk to. We all go through things, and how we deal with them and how we move forward with them is really what makes us human and what makes us hopeful. I mean, I think hope is the engine that pulls us forward, and it's such an effective motor. And so I love the title of the show, Never Ever Give Up Hope. I think that's really the task at hand.
Is your book written as a story, as a handbook? Just share a little bit of that.
Yeah, it's actually it's a story, it's a memoir, and one of my best compliments is somebody told me, "Oh my gosh, this reads like a novel," which I actually
Hmm.
think that's a compliment because I love to write and I'm very involved in. I've taught some writing classes and I've been in a writing group for many years. I'm a real student of the craft of writing, and I think a good memoir should read like fiction because I mean
Right.
you're pulled into the story, and I think that's what, to get immersed in someone else's story is
Hmm.
to be immersed in our own story. I mean, I think what I've found with kind of the everybody is in this together is that the most idiosyncratic of stories can be universal. And so it's written as a story. You get very immersed into what I'm going through, and you get to rise with me in the experience.
I love that. And it really warms the cockles of your heart when somebody says, "Wow, I couldn't put it down. I stayed up all night and read it," that kind of thing. And I
Yes.
know you've got,
Yes.
and so that alone speaks to me that yes, this is something that we all want to read for pure enjoyment of reading
Yeah.
it would just be a minor part of that, right? But
Yeah.
the message is what you are sharing and along with your story. So that is awesome. I appreciate you sharing that part. Your journal. Tell us about your journal.
Yes. So I really, so many people ask me when I'm at writing events, book events, is how did you remember so many details? And I have so many details in the book that I didn't remember. I wrote them down because I have a journal. And
Hmm.
I find that journaling is such a good way to process emotion. And so I really like I believe a couple of things. I believe that when we have hard things that happen to us, we can't deny them. We can't just be positive all the time and not feel the hard things. So I kind of recommend people do a damn it dump, which is just if things are feeling hard, just go to a journal and just dump it out. Like, this is not fair and this is not fair. No one has to read it. Just get it out of the system. And, sometimes I think our thoughts like that are like a pack of wild dogs. We have to exercise them and wear them out. And writing them down helps do that. And then I believe, like I said, in a lucky list. And I think that's helpful to write down and just processing all the thoughts. And another thing I really believe strongly in is just finding one lovely thing a day. Sometimes if we're
Ah,
really having a hard time, that's just one lovely thing. Like, we can always find that one lovely thing. So, with all this in mind, I did create a journal and it's called the One Lovely Thing Journal.
hmm.
And it starts off with a damn it dump. So you can just not feel like you have to be rosy. You can just spill your thoughts. And then it's also filled with some great prompts on how to change our thoughts. And there's really great quotes, inspirational quotes throughout it. And it's just a small journal that I think is a good place for people to just kind of have permission to share the hard things and, share the beauty and the bummers. And so I created that, and it's available on my website, which is Jennifer Cramer with a C, Miller.com.
And we'll have all of that in the show notes as well. Well, that sounds like a Christmas gift, doesn't it?
Yes, it's a cute pairing with Incurable Optimist because they are kind of coordinated. And after you read Incurable Optimist, or as you're reading it, I know I do this with books. If I'm reading a book and it's kind of stirring things up in me,
Hmm.
I write in my books. I can't help myself. I'm
Hmm.
such a reader writer. But the journal is a great pairing with the book. As it stirs something up or it makes you think of something, you can like write your journal thoughts in
Right,
conjunction
right.
with the book.
Great idea. Thank you. Well, this has been wonderful listening to your story and your attitude, as I mentioned at the top of the hour. It just comes across so clearly, and your desire to help others, to encourage others. I just love it, and I appreciate you being on Never Ever Give Up Hope. Is there anything that you would like to say in closing?
I guess I would just like to say that the title of the podcast is a really good mission. And I agree not to give up hope. I mean, life will go in its ups and downs. I think that every day we wake up, we can probably expect that there will be some good and some bad. And we just need to appreciate all of it, because when you're someone like me who has been through so much, I really am so grateful for the gift of being alive. And when that is your perspective, and you really have a perspective that being alive is a pretty great thing, I think it shifts the way you carry through your days, and hope is required. So I just would stress what you tell everybody: never ever give up hope.
Thank you. And thank you again, Jennifer, for being on Never Ever Give Up Hope.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you for listening to Never Ever Give Up Hope, featuring Carol Graham. Did you know that most people succeed because they are determined to? Quitting was never an option. Carol loves your comments and will respond to each one. So please subscribe and review this podcast. A rating of 5 stars would be outstanding and appreciated. Remember, if you are still here, there is always hope.